Hello, friends. I am John, and I am the 3D 80s kid. Welcome to episode 3. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at the grading companies. Not focused here on actually sending in raw cards to grade, but the acquisition of different slabs, the plus minuses from my perspective, being someone completely new to graded cards only a year and a half ago. Don't really have a preformed bias. I wasn't set on any particular company. So just my impressions on plus minuses of buying the slabs and ultimately how they present when I display them up on my wall. So hope you enjoy. I almost forgot after talking about the grading companies, I was going to just take a look at a few vintage cards that are a type that's kind of a relative bargain in the hobby, where I feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck, and show you my 3 examples of this type of card. All right, I'm starting with the oldest and largest company. This is PSA, Professional Sports Authenticator, founded in 1991. These are the guys that are the giants of the grading industry. It is almost as much of a dominance like Intel is for microprocessors on computers. They have way more cards graded than anybody else. They're able to crank out more cards than anybody currently. So their lead in graded card volume just keeps getting larger. So the big pluses with PSA collecting is availability. You're gonna be able to find almost whatever you're looking for on the market for PSA in almost whatever graded level you're targeting as far as what your budget allows. Besides that, if you're looking at traveling around with your slabs to other locations, they are the most compact, as well as lightweight as far as slabs go. Fitting them into those fancy cases I've seen lots of people carrying in YouTube videos. You can pack the most PSA slabs over anything by far into one of those cases. Negatives, for me at least, the red color. Sometimes it just clashes a bit with the card. I mean, both of these examples look all right, but I've seen ones, especially where green is a highly prominent color, and I don't know about you, but I'm not looking for these to be like Christmas cards. The other thing about these to me is the slab itself just feels cheap compared to the other major companies. They definitely made improvements between the old slab on the left and the new one on the right. The older ones are even cheaper feeling than the new ones. But ultimately, between these and the rest of the industry, they just... It seems surprising to people who know nothing about cards if you tell them, give them an example slab of every company and which one do you think goes for the most money. Almost no one is going to choose the PSA. Up next, we have Sports Card Guarantee Corporation, or SGC, founded in 1998. And here I have examples of the old slab and the new slab here, with the old one being on the left. And I definitely think they made a huge upgrade in the aesthetic with that new label. The pluses on these are they're like PSA, they're also very lightweight. The biggest plus to me is, with regards to vintage, is that tuxedo. The vintage cards just pop out of these things and look just pretty awesome to me. Minuses on this, like the PSA, that's the slab itself feels kind of cheap. And the other thing is that they're larger, so ultimately I can't fit as many into my display. If I had an all PSA display, my cabinet display could fill 35 cards with 7 on each row, but with SGC it becomes a 30 card display. And with SGC, while the availability is decent, as there are a lot of SGC vintage collectors out there, it is not up to the level or even close to what is available out there with PSA. So, on to the next company. Up next, we have Beckett Grading Services, which was founded in 1999. Which is your example on the right, and they also have a division they refer to as Beckett Vintage Grading, or BVG, the card on the left. What I view as a big plus is their slab feels very sturdy, and also favor kind of having a neutral label that's not going to interfere with the card. On the minus side, however, if you are looking to travel with them, they are much more bulky and heavier than the other past two companies I've shown, which is definitely going to add up as you are trying to travel with a number of them. They also, while they're not what I'd call where they're going to cut you sharp, the points in the corners on these things are pointier than I would like. I know you never want to drop your slab, but if you do and that thing lands on your foot with a corner hitting your foot, ouch. They are not pet safe. And last of all, issue for me that I expressed in a prior video is the small font. These things, to look at them in hand and read the small letter descriptions on the card, need my reading glasses, or I need to hold them far away from my face and squint in order to read that text. I wish they would have made that font size just a little bit bigger. So that's my report on Beckett. Now we have CSG, which is the only one that actually spells out their acronym on the front of their card there, with Certified Sports Guarantee. They started operating in 2021, but they were a division formed out of the larger corporate entity known as CGC, which has a number of divisions that have been operating for quite a long time in the spaces of coin grading, comic book grading, Pokemon card TCG type grading. So they come into this sports card game with already having a very solid reputation in this industry. So they've been pretty well accepted, even though it is a new entity in the sports card market. On the plus side for them, their slab is just the most beautiful acrylic of any company. The thing kind of sparkles in your hand. It is crystal clear, and it just looks amazing. It feels sturdy. It is also compact, being as they modeled their sizing seemingly after PSA. So in terms of the front-facing dimensions, they are almost a complete match for PSA. They are just slightly thicker, but the big selling point for vintage collecting, especially, is that they are a bargain in terms of uh, the cost of their slabs at this point. With the same card in PSA or an SGC slab is going to cost you quite a bit more for the same grade. Also, a big fan of their new neutral label. I don't have an example of the older green label anymore, as I did possess a couple, but those have been sold off. But it was a massive improvement when they went to the black bordered label there, neutral, so it's not really clashing with any of the cards. So now the big negative for CSG at this point is availability. You're not going to find a lot of vintage selection yet in CSG. So it's probably going to require you to build a CSG collection via raw to grade yourself. So that's kind of the summary of CSG. Lastly, I wanted to talk about HGA. Now stop. I know some of you right now are groaning or rolling your eyes the moment you saw these on the screen, but I at least wanted to bring them up. They're the company I have the most experience with actually going raw to grade. And they still seem to have a subset of fans that are still loyal to them at this point. While most of the industry views them merely as an opportunity possibly to buy on the cheap and cross over to another company. But from a collecting perspective, they have a very unique aesthetic relative to these other companies. As you can see here, my preference is their neutral, what they call a neutral card match label, which almost gives you a continuous aesthetic between the label and the card itself. And it, to me, is very pleasing on the eye, especially in hand. I don't know how it feels for you here seeing it on the screen. The other huge, anomaly that they have at this point in the entire industry is this horizontal slab. It just makes a horizontal card for presentation purposes just really look amazing. These things look great on my shelf with that big horizontal label to match the horizontal orientation of the card. So, I mean, say what you will about them in terms of value, but from a collector perspective, if they're going to sit on your shelf, they can be attractive eyepieces. Like many of you, I have no interest in the whole crazy custom labels that they do. It seems to be a thing for the kids. I avoided it completely and had zero interest. But I guess the other negative on the side of things would be that they are bulky and heavy. But as far as back on the positive side, they are very sturdy. And I would say in terms of their acrylic, they would be a step behind CSG, but number 2 out of these 5 in my book. So there you have it with the 5 different companies. And now I'm going to talk about ultimately what I have decided with, for myself at least, to move forward. And the winner for me is SGC. Regardless of all the plus minuses, ultimately what won it over for me was the tux. I just can't get past how good it feels like it looks in that with that black border. The vintage cards just look and they just present higher than what their grade says for me when they're in that tux. I have made it my personal goal to fill my storage cabinet as well as my shelves with SGC vintage cards that have the new label design. So that is my current hobby mission. Now I just wanted to make special mention of a few cards I displayed during my talk of the different grading companies. These would be cards that feature multiple players in a single picture. As far as purchasing these types of cards, they actually end up being a lot cheaper than the players' normal issue cards. They do not seem to be in as high demand. So you're able to get multiple Hall of Famers in the case of the Mays Musial and the Mays Cepeda, as opposed to having a single card with each player individually. Myself, I like the aesthetic of these picture cards. Some people try to go this route with collecting cards with multiple Hall of Famers by picking like the league leader type cards. I've just never liked those cards that have each of the small individual pictures. I much prefer these ones of photographs of guys taking a picture together. So anyways, it's another route you can choose in this vintage hobby journey that we're on together. So hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will say farewell for now.